Thank you very much. Did you do it over? No. And James with, what do you do, James? Okay, well, yeah, well, then you're in the right place. Okay, anyway, so let's go this way. First off, can we actually move on the minutes since we don't have a quorum?
We'll save it to next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll give us a chance to actually. All right. Okay, then I think what we'll do is if you'll introduce us to our first project, and then once we do that, we'll get introductions from the design team, the applicant team, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thank you all for being here. 901 Main Street redevelopment seeks to transform Dallas' most iconic downtown property into a vibrant mixed-use district. This project aims to revitalize the Bank of America Tower and surrounding blocks, creating a dynamic commercial hub that redefines the western edge of downtown. Planned improvements include a luxury hotel on floors 23 through 32, penthouse restaurant, expanded parking, and a redesigned street-level retail to activate the surrounding area. Enhanced streetscapes with outdoor dining will create a welcoming and engaging environment for tenants and visitors alike. These enhancements emphasize walkability, encourage social connections, and contribute to a cohesive urban core.
I'm up.
Sir.
Yeah, introductions, please.
First, thank you. My name is Mike Avalon. Thank you, Sis Avalon, and I'm going to let each of my team members introduce themselves. Architect.
Steve Janeway, design principal with Paperwalk.
Arthur Santa Maria with Go Global. We're partners with Texas.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Glad to be here today. And we're really excited. We can talk about the area that everybody here knows it as well as I do because it's the middle of town. It's the proverbial hole in the donut.
Yeah.
And there is a hole in the donut. And we have influences happening around it. We have a 3 billion plus or minus convention center redo coming from the south. We have Dallas Community College on the other side of us on the west side that has an RFP out or FQ now to figure out what their future is. We have the West End, which I think is going to go through a transformative process over the next decade. And I might even hypothecate it becomes, because it's historic, much more housing than anything else with intermittent office and a little bit of coffee shop dining in there, which I think would be a great use. We have Main Street to the east of us, and then we have a hole. Now, south of us, we have Uptown, which is growing. Uptown, vibrant. You have street life, and you have office. I'm gonna talk about the office for a second, because 901 Main is a 1.8 million square foot office building. It says very carefully. It has massive terminations coming up. Because this is public, I'm not gonna list them, but let's just say that you have a building that's de-leasing, just like the other ones. And it's unreconcilable unless. They say, why in Uptown are those buildings at $100 a foot rent, that's rent plus expenses? And in downtown, a mile and a half away, I don't have to tell you why that's at $30. It's not at 50% discount, it's larger. And unless you can match up, you're not gonna get the vibrancy. Now, I really believe in the shared transportation. I believe in public and common transportation. And I also believe that Dallas clearly is a multi-transportation network at 8.4 million people in Metroplex. It is a post-World War II car society that's in a transition phase. You've got to answer that, and you have to answer the question. Because once you get inside the building, it's sheetrocks, elevators, bathrooms, it's all the same. It's about, as we know, the ground plan, the street, which is about what do we want as a people for today, the next 10 years, what we want is street life. What makes the convention center good for our project isn't the convention center. It's the fact that we're gonna go from 350,000 room nights to 850,000. That's 19 to 2029. That tells you what the street light change is gonna be, and that will help support more restaurants, which is part of the formula that we're gonna try to answer. It's good for prevention, but it also gives that so that we can lease a building. I'm talking about a building that would cost $1,000 to $1,200 to build, they won't build another one for a long time, and you can't lease it. You can't lease it. So what are we gonna do? It's all really important, because everything we're gonna show you is to answer a question, right? We're not trying to design good stuff and fill up blocks, we're trying to answer a question. Now, for me, this is very much like the design district 15, 20 years ago, which was, it was 40 square blocks. It was a piece of one-story fabric that I thought had a destiny that could answer to it, because we had the toll road tying in with the exit, we had Oak Lawn, we had adjacency, and we could work with it. We're looking at our 6 blocks the same way, so it really isn't just a building, it's the building. It's the new building we're gonna build with it, and it's what we're gonna do around it, and it's a composition comes together functionally and also address the street fabric. That's the big idea, that's the why. And we should be catalytic for that part of town. From a design standpoint, everybody here knows the building, 72 stories, it's green at night. Somebody in the press gave it a nickname that I won't repeat because I don't like it, we're gonna get rid of that nickname. Let's just call it a really beautiful, modern building that kind of crashes into the sidewalk and is emptying out. So our notion was to take a site that had a building that crashed in the sidewalk and a little fake pavilion here next to it. Just like the old Chase Bank Tower, just like a number of them, they have a building, Renaissance has a little pod. And that pod covers something, which at the street level, it's below it at the concourse. You just say right now, hey concourse, hey tunnels, get rid of them. That is an opportunity to build a building on the street. I don't want to put a hotel in a building. It's about the street, it has its identity, it's iconic, it adds fabric, and it should be a jewel box type notion on the street next to it, in my mind, that ties into it. So simply put, what we are going to do in the first phase is take our building and take that pavilion here over the concourse, take the pavilion top off, and take the Roto-Rooter and scrape out the tunnel piece and hollow it out and put a hotel here. And then across the street, put a 10-story garage. Why do you put a 10-story garage? It's really important because we have to park to some level. Now, we have a big conversation right now, is parking by code, parking by demand. I'm a parking by demand, not a parking by code guy. But at parking by demand, I need 5,000 spots. There's no way to get there. So I'm gonna push to get us close enough that we can lease the building. Without that, you can't lease the building. It's just, the broker won't sign a lease, right? The definition of deflation is no matter how much you lower the price, there is no customer. The CBD office buildings are a deflationary cycle that we're trying to break. So we put our parking garage right here. And that would be future. But it's great because we want density. This is where we want our density, both for a cool city, an urban fabric, interest, and tax base, obviously. So we want to add that here. But when we add a garage, we need to be very sensitive about what the street form looks like. So when we put our garage here, upside down, are we also creating a street fabric between the two that has a language where being on that street is cool? We're pulling the hotel, it's neat, and across the street, there's a life. We're starting to form two sides of the street that talk to each other. So this would actually be looking as if you're at the garage, restaurants, ground floor, looking back at the building. Now, how do you do that? Well, the part that's interesting to me, and I think it's really well done by the architect, isn't just designing a really beautiful little jewel box building that sits next to the tower that has its own entrance, its own porte cochere. It's its own fabric that has an identity. That's fantastic, but that's your main hub. We're actually gonna use a bit of an airport design. Airport where you have people coming in and people coming out in the split levels. We're gonna split it so you come off your street, but we're gonna put the lobby in the concourse level. Now, who wants to go down to a concourse for a lobby? We'll talk about that in a minute, great design. But we do that so we come in and we drop down, so our ballroom sits down on that level, meeting rooms around it below. And we have a great street edge. Now, what we've done very carefully is we preserve the office building. Office building must maintain its integrity as an office building, again, or nobody leases it. How can we make the office do no harm? How do we make the office building better in the design? And yet have the autonomy. So what we do is we've come down, you can see the cut section to the lobby. On the concourse, we've taken all the stuff out of the concourse and we're gonna put it on the street. We all want that. And this will show you why I think it's gonna work. You come off the street, you drop in, you come down the escalator. We have our jewel box, the glass above, there's your ballroom, and there's your tower taking up. Great scale, almost Roman, and you come down and that's interesting. That'd make a really cool lobby down there. You come down the escalator, you go to your hotel. Okay, you check in, what do? You're gonna walk across that concourse level, below ground, to one elevator bank that takes you up to the rooms in the building. At the street level, the office people are at office, they have an office lobby, they go up and down. It's an office building. It's very much like New York. Okay, where do you live? My office is on Fifth Avenue, I live on 52nd. It's two entrances to the same building, but they're on different streets. We can't do that here, so we're splitting. But my hotel guest is a hotel guest, and they're in a hotel, and they never see the office building. They're right from there or to the top of the building. That's how we're gonna accomplish it. Here's another look at what it looks like. It's coming down the escalator. Right here, into your lobby. I know the thing about it, really the whole concept of it is really maximizing that concourse and making it special for a hotel. Street level has a hotel entrance, has an office entrance, office building holds integrity. Hotel seems to be pretty cool in my mind. The hoteliers think it's pretty special also, we're interested in get that done. And then the last component, I'm coming up at the hotel, I've got my block of a building where I'm consuming some of that square footage for the hotel. Modern building, good window line, that works well. Got the photos of that, but I know it's not about that. And then we go up to the top, and it's our goal to come to the top of the building. And all of us, back in the day, had gone to the City Club on the 69th floor, right? No longer there, now called a shell, just concrete. You have one of the tallest buildings west of the Mississippi. Get people up to the top of it and make it a view. So we're gonna work with the skin to pull the skin in and pull a floating pool out. Now, it's not a pool as they give you a diving board. It's a 3-foot pool within 6 inches here, so the reflective, and if we do that, we can pull that outside windscreen instead of a 5-foot, take it to 8 feet, so it's also a person screen. And then something dynamic, you can go up there, there's your restaurant, there's your club, there's your views, and there's no walls. How cool would that be? Right, inside, outside space, and then of course you have your inside space, weather permitting at 8 feet, you ought to be able to cut the wind way down, so it's very usable. So really, I know it's not about that, but it is. It's about what makes the place something so special, and if we don't build it this damn nice, it ain't gonna happen. So you really gotta play hard or don't play at all. And we've gotta do it all. How do I lease 1.8 million feet? And the office building is being about 1.5 million. How do you lease it? I answered the question. I'm not getting 3 per thousand parking. I'm a lot less than that, but I've got enough that I can lease it and use the rest of the public and sharing economy and Uber and Lyft and the rest of that. And I've got parking to suffice. And I've done it in a way that helps build the street life by putting restaurants underneath it to get both sides of it. And answer that question, build the street, engross the street, have products that'll work. A hotel will work really well if it has its own brand identity, its own building, its own street presence. So we've worked to do that. You are architects, you know what we're doing. So I'm gonna stop as opposed to over explaining something that you probably know as well or better than me. And I'm gonna stop there. And then our architect, Stephen Janeway, and I will be glad to answer, listen, talk about, take notes. At your will. Is that sufficient?
That, I think that is great, and we appreciate you, being specific with the relevant issues here. Sometimes we do get a lot that, you don't always need to make an evaluation. So our typical way of doing this is, we'll go one path through the panel, let them follow the ask questions, and then we will come back with comments. So Maria, start with you, if you have any questions.
Yeah, I do. So, Mike, the pavilion project does not have rooms. All the rooms are in the room.
That's exactly correct. What you're gonna use is the pavilion for your arrival, which is different than your entry. So your arrival, your entry, your reception, your connection to the ballrooms and meeting rooms. And then if you're gonna stay in the hotel, you walk through the concourse, which used to be taco joints and food restaurant. Right now it's effective because we put that on the street, which is where we want it. And then when you come out of the ballroom, because we all went to a luncheon for XYZ event, you either come back through, and I did talk about it, but I want to talk about it because it's really important. I must be able to take somebody from here to the garage. Now, whether they're going to the valet line, which is gonna be right here, you can't valet 250 people right here, and valet your hotel guests. I have to have a valet line to get 250 people out, or self-park, come out here. And so, yes, the rooms are gonna be here.
How many are you expect?
280 keys is the target that seems to match the study, the flag, the operator, and everybody on the 18-person checklist. So plus or minus.
Can you talk a little bit more about the retail of the garage? I see that when facing the Bank of America building, what happened on the other side?
The old site plan. So this would be Bank of America. So I'm gonna drive up or walk up. We're gonna walk down the street. We're gonna walk up and we come into the hotel. This is the covered piece right here. And I can come down my escalators or my little class elevators into my hotel lobby down Congress Hill here, or I still walk into my office building. If I'm driving, I can drive up the valet drop here. I can drop off, pick up right here, or park. And we still have our garage across the catty corner, right? The Texas Club Garage, even the Texas Club is operating. And then across the street, we have our garage. So you're gonna have your levels of the garage, ground floor plane. If we take our ground floor plane and we address it to the street, which we can do by laying out the bays properly, we all know that, how we do that, then you're gonna have to be able to get cars in and out and in and out. Definitely want to get restaurant this side. On this side here, future development tract, right? You have McDonald's right here, which everybody knows about real well. And then we have this tract. We will own and control this tract. We do not own and control that tract. Short term, we make this parking. Long term, because it vibrates and you can't put restaurants there. Long term, you'd love to put something here, and it's all about two facing streets. So you build this in day one as restaurants, and long term, you're gonna design it so we can convert that. And also you'll see a drop off right here. long-term densification works. Densification is great, both from a carbon footprint, transportation, infrastructure, and everything else. Love to put another building on top of the garage long-term. So you have to account for that day one on how, so what is this right here? That would be, whether it's housing, an office building, or another hotel, you have to have some way to address that right here. Did I answer?
Yeah, and so day one, you're gonna have parking on the Palmer side. What about that corner up there? Is that also parking from the other?
Day one, we're gonna try to restaurant this to get this full edge. And then, God bless economics and growth here, this happens to go over here. There's every reason why we wanna do it the first chance you get.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have much. Pick that one up, if you don't mind. So where is your valet lounge, you think?
Okay, you're coming to stay at the.
The National, we're gonna talk about the National.
Okay.
Tell me how you're not the National,
Great,
okay?
be glad to. You're coming up to stay at the hotel.
Mhm.
You're gonna pull up right through here. You're gonna valet, drop off in here. You're gonna come in and they're gonna take your car.
Okay, so it's on that side. I thought it was-
This, for the hotel,
Okay,
we're guests, the four of us, we're going to stay there. We use this. We get out of our 250 person lunch for, Hail to the Architect lunch, for architect. Then the valet lane for that is over here with the parking. So you're gonna come across over here, and that's where your self-park, your valet park, your Uber pickup. I mean, think in terms of, when we go to the airport now, they split off an Uber lane, which works great. We split off mass transit, which is great, the DFW, and then we split off self-park. You can do all that in the garage over here, and you haven't overloaded this. This is still James coming up to drop off his bags and go check in.
all right, so the valet, okay, but what I'm thinking of is when me and 500 of my best friends come to a gala event.
Well, first,
Ballroom.
thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate
But
that.
you're gonna have to make us a deal, but we'll talk about that one later. So where does that, because that's what I have seen be the problem.
Yes,
They have that for that event. So how is this different from that?
can
Because
I
that is
add,
a constant obstruction.
Greg, can I add one item to your storyline?
Sure.
What's today? January.
17th.
Yeah, it's January 17th and it's 21 degrees and the wind is blowing because it's a tunnel. You're coming with your 500 best friends anywhere, than you got 500 friends, good for you, I don't.
That's
Heck of
good.
a
They're
face.
my best ones, doesn't mean they're good, but they're best.
You're gonna come in and you're gonna park here, whether you're valeting or self-parking, you're in this garage and you're walking across directly in, weather tight.
Got it?
And what, I'm sorry?
I was saying to the jump off.
Yeah, right?
Okay,
And then you're here.
okay. I'm
You,
thinking,
you got out, you're coming back to the garage,
okay,
and then you're getting in, you're giving your valet ticket in the garage.
okay.
You're getting self-park,
Okay.
Uber lane.
So all valet is inside the garage. It's not on the street.
Yes, for a conference, if you're staying at the hotel,
I'm thinking about,
yes. For conference parking that event, that's exactly why the architect set it up. that way.
okay. Make sure I understood that.
Did a great job setting it up.
Okay. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Yes, the Fairmont doesn't work.
Well, a lot of things don't work, especially when we're trying to access the street. I think that's actually my question for the moment, James, if you got some things.
I think most of mine have been answered. The tower is future. Right, that's
The
the
residential.
That's residential.
I can take it off. It is
Yeah.
completely future. The only reason we draw it on there, it's not, love bait to have to fall in love with it and density. It's because we need to lay out the garage
Right.
so that it works with the street retail. It parks for the hotel, it parks for the office building, and long-term, we have the capacity. That's just column grid and leaving a hole out for a core.
Yeah.
Y'all know exactly what we're doing. It's just, it's for planning purposes.
Yeah,
So architect puts it on it for me so that I know what I'm doing.
sure.
It's,
Yeah.
you're not building it.
Yeah, and I mean, I
The top
really,
of this is concrete.
yeah, I respect the challenge.
Yeah.
I'm a landscape architect, licensed, more as an urban designer and actually more in the transportation industry. So I'm thinking about your street circulation and how all that's gonna be coordinated. I spent a lot of time at East Office in the Katy Railroad, if you know where that
Yeah.
is, Katy Railroad,
Uh-huh.
and we were office there for about 6 years. So I spent a lot of time in those tunnels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complete paradigm shift you're having to make with all of this.
It should be catalytic and we're at the end of the tunnel, so we can do that.
Yeah,
If we
Yeah.
were mid-tunnel, we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
We're taking advantage of the anomaly that we just happen to be there and say, great. It's my opinion.
yeah,
We stop it here and hopefully the next one incrementally does the same thing. Let's put everybody on the street.
right.
Let's get everybody on the street. Let's take our amenities we want to get them on the street.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the architect has laid out.
I think it's great. I mean, how does the garage there, I forget what it's called, the giant parking garage that's,
The existing,
yeah.
the Texas.
How does that all- So you're not, that's not factoring into, you're not assuming use of that.
Great, great question.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We, without that, you don't buy this.
Right.
So that is 1,100 and, I'm off, 1,150 cars plus or minus.
That's connected.
It is connected by a tunnel.
Yeah.
But it's just specifically, it's a parking garage tunnel that comes here and across here and ties in. That's what that escalator right there is. So the only person who's going to use this is the garage with the building.
Yeah.
And that obviously does remain. Again, you must get me on a 21-degree day or a 110-degree day. I gotta get to my parking, dry and weatherproof, or I won't lease the building. Period. An inconvenient truth.
Yeah. I really don't have any other questions.
I've got one more, forgot to ask. First of all, I always ask this, where are you on design? Is this what it's gonna look like if you start tomorrow, or is this placeholders for concepts? Because we are about urban design and how you're treating the street and what people are gonna see and interact with together. We care about that and we think that's important. And I just wanna know, you know, it's just, a lot of times we get stuff that's just placeholders. We haven't designed it, but it's gonna be over here. Looks like you're beyond that, but can you confirm to me which way?
Yeah, I want to be as exacting as I can. We have the property under contract.
Okay,
We intend to close after we have completed our TIF process.
okay,
We have done the design one does to go through the TIF process.
okay,
Is this emblematic of what we intend to do? Absolutely.
okay,
Is that what the building's gonna look like? Absolutely not.
okay,
I hope it's better.
okay.
And there's a lot of, no matter how much the architects thought about it, we don't know, there's a devils in the details, or 10,000 details that aren't worked out. Will it be the nature of what we're showing you? Completely. Is this the design of the final building? Of course not.
Okay.
We won't have that for 12 months.
I am very glad I asked. That's important information.
Well, and then this one may be out there, you may not have thought about this, but as far as other access, transit, notice we talked about extending the streetcar. Any thoughts about how that, depending on what the alignment through downtown might be, if there's a future streetcar line through, where that preference would be and how it would work with your.
Yeah, sure.
Basin?
Right now, there's a conversation out there about a possible relocation of the dark terminal over here. Right now, there's a conversation about converting one-way to two-lane streets.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a conversation about adding bike lanes. there's so many conversations, you can't even figure out which family tree to go down on the conversation. But
Welcome to Dallas.
in attended interviews, you do find out what they really want, which is more kiss and drop, as we call it, right? More quick, what do they call it, where it brings your food?
Uber Eats.
Yeah, thank you, a generation back on this one. Uber Eats or the instant Amazon, that kind, so the quick delivery. You need to provide more space for that than they used to. Up in this garage, you're gonna have more delivery. We have the big tunnel that goes from the parking garage to the service tunnel with the truck docks over here to the building. That's also how you service the hotel. It's a question you didn't ask, how you gonna service it? Our service tunnel is already there, docks are already there, so that works out fantastic. It's a bit of a pain in the rear end on your distance to travel, but it works really well. That's why we didn't have to do service. We have places that were locked, right? That tunnel block building, this side, you can't touch it. You can't touch this, so you're really locked. You can treat your hardscape and softscape. That's not at the guide. You do not touch it. This side, you can work it, right? So yes, we're trying to get the kiss and drop, the quick drop, the Uber Eat, thought through that. As it relates to the streetcar, dart, one-way, two-way streetcar. You figure it out, let me know. I can't wait, and I'll jump all over it.
Some people are very.
Yeah, please do.
Like, you didn't talk much about, there's a two-story restaurant shown in the existing building at the ground floor, so I think it's important because that's going to help activate that the walkway between.
I would love to talk about my lobby.
Yeah, bring that to the underground.
So right now, the building, you walk in and it's dry. It's got beautiful stone, butch match stone and 30-foot ceilings. Is there a human scale to it? Is there humanism to it? No. Is all the amenities down in the concourse? Yes. So can you bring your branch bank up to the street? Can you bring your retail to the street, put it over here? Can you come into your, inside your lobby and put a Starbucks-esque coffee shop, something in the lobby? You could even do a 2-story scaffold, walk up, sit on top, sit in front, as opposed to just the vendor booth, because you've got the ceiling height. That's interesting. But with your hotel, what we all know is you come in the lobby, you picture any lobby, and you've got your hotel, you get your arrival, reception, check-in. You're gonna have a bar area, you're gonna have a seating area. You're gonna somewhere to have your shop. You're gonna have your 3-meal restaurant. And then you're gonna have your nice restaurant. Nice restaurant, hot the elevator, go up to 69, that's the bomb. We got that covered. The arrival reception bar, the bar's on the other side of the lobby with the waterfall coming down, pretty cool. 3-meal restaurant. It's supposed to stick in that concourse. If we can bring that up, as you saw in the plan, and put some of that on the ground floor and some of that on the concourse, now you've got a restaurant inside the building, inside the hotel, office. Now the office building, part of how you lease an office building, you have a club, nice restaurant, you got your 3-meal restaurant, you got your coffee, quick amenity, you've got the restaurant. So that is the 3-meal restaurant for the hotel. And we're trying to get it at the street level also for all of the reasons that you walk from the building next door, your hotel, yes, or your office. Yes, or adults. And that would be part actually of the hotel versus a separate restaurant, whether it's quick takeout, quick service, dining casual, or other on the other side of the street. That's part of your hotel operation.
I'm down now.
Okay, but that's fine. Would you mind starting off with our comment? You better not use it.
Yes.
Yeah, keep it over, don't pick on me, pick on me.
No, that's your turn.
Well, to you and to Robert, I think this is a wonderful undertaking. I mean, we need somebody in this community to do something for this building. It's pretty sad to have so many square feet that are not used. And it's not just in this building, but we have a little problem. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing and it's such a investment. And I think it's really, really important for downtown Dallas to have a successful project like this. I think the architects have done a great job with the design of what that building might look like. I tend to not like above grade parking, but I completely understand that there's a cost associated with below grade parking and activating, you're doing what we need you to do related to activate that ground floor as much as you can. The activation with the ground floor now is mostly happening on the other side of the street. That restaurant, I think, is key. So as the design continues to develop, I think it's about making sure that there's a very strong connection, a pedestrian connection from what's happening across the street and accessing that restaurant from the Main Street side. I think we haven't done into the details of what the street section is gonna look like, but it seems like you're being thoughtful about paving and alignments and trees. I'm sure it's quite complicated with everything that is happening underneath, but that is gonna be really important to provide shading and to make it comfortable for the pedestrians. So I think, strengthening that connection as much as you can to the restaurant which in the plan right now feels a little bit more on the other side, which is fine, because we also want something to activate one side. Now, it's challenging because if that's what the garage is, there are a lot of challenges there too, but trying to activate this or as much as we can with what's happening in the
Thank you.
James, I'll let you go next. I'll wrap this up.
I'll leave the architectural comments to Norm. I'm not an architect. I will say that when you were first describing the lobby, I was trying to understand that, but really, the more I think about it, I think I think it'd be really unique. I mean, it's a great use of that space. I'm assuming that lower area is all that food court that's there right now. You're just reutilizing that type of thing. It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I think your previous word was paradigm shift, and it's a complete radical paradigm shift.
Yeah, my comments will be more than that. I would say, it's a noble cause. Stay the course. Don't get frustrated about the external things going on because you're gonna have there's a lot going on around you. I realize, but I'm not a native from Dallas, but I've been here 30 years, so it's all now. I've watched this area go through this transition that you talked about in your earlier comments. To have an office there, being more, I'd say, tourist office. Definitely from an office culture to more of a 24/7. I remember when we were there after 5 o'clock, sidewalks would roll up, so you're having to really change a lot of that. Then you work with the city and all the other stakeholders, and all the things that are becoming, like consumer transit, I'd say stay engaged there, because I think that could also go change a lot of, I've said that paradigm shift, that's overused, but definitely changing the whole perception of this part of town. Anything we can do to help get, don't hesitate to call on us, beyond this meeting. But I would say just keep your chin up and keep doing what you're doing. I love the direction. Look forward to seeing it evolve.
Thank you.
Good.
That's it.
Okay. All right. All right. Wrap up here a little. I am an architect, not a landscape architect, but that doesn't stop me from talking about landscape stuff, so don't let it stop me with architecture in the future. Yeah, engineering, yeah, I'll talk about engineering, I'll talk about runoff, whatever I feel like today. 2017, no, 2012, I moved into an office in the east end of downtown, across the street from the Public Bank Tower. And I loved that space. There was street light, close to stuff, there was a dark station. It felt so urban. I really had a good time there. 2017, I took, for a lot of good reasons at the time, I took a new office on the 49th floor of Renaissance. And it was a fabulous office. And I stayed in it because there was nothing on the street. It was a dreadful, and it was downtown. It was too far to walk back to where I come from. And I always lamented the fact that end of town, even though it kind of looks good on paper, it just doesn't work from an urban environment. The pedestrian thing, it just, yeah, we have the food court and stuff, but, Chick-fil-A was always too busy and there wasn't much else going on that. So all of that set up to say, I love that you're doing this, because I don't know of a place on this earth that needs more, interaction.
I thought you were gonna say, anybody else is stupid enough to try. So, I like the way you went there. I was thinking you were going the other way.
Yeah, what do you think? No, I agree with that I don't know anything about it, but I agree with your rationale. This is a funny place in Dallas to have the problems that we have. There should be enough going on here. There's a governmental center right next to it. There's a college right next to it. Why isn't this more like a really good big city? And it's not. This is a big step in whatever way. In fact, what strikes me as what you've done is your idea of taking, it's like that old thing with Star Trek where they started playing three-dimensional chess, instead of everything happening in one ground plane, and now you're going up and down as well. That's what you're doing here. You're taking the street life thing and expanding it and incorporating it at different levels. And I think as long as you're not just going below ground or just going above ground like some places, as long as you're spreading that across, I think the concept is really excellent here. For instance, I'm completely fine with a dedicated 10-story parking garage. There are people in this town who will not be fine with that. You'll hear a lot of pushback on it, but I'm okay with it because I appreciate the need. Beyond that, this is preconception. So I'm not going to belabor the notion of landscaping and stuff. Beyond the fact to say that we're glad you came to us very early. We do think we can provide a lot of cultivation go down the line. We hope to see you back a few more times. We're always happy to talk. I do think there's a lot about the urban design environment down here that there are opportunities that aren't reflected in here yet. I personally, if it actually got built this way, would be very concerned about the amount, but here we are in Dallas again, 105 degrees, and there's a lot of paving, even with structures. There's just a lot of plaza type space, which, like the 30-foot tall lobbies with nothing but stone, the large acres of open paving, while you can justify them for pedestrian use, they're dreadful places to be most of the time. I'm not saying this is dreadful, but I do think there's opportunities here, and the assumption for us is that you just haven't focused on how you take advantage of that. It's not a criticism. It is for us an admonition to really, you've got great opportunities. You've got space a lot of buildings don't have. Do play up that street experience big time. Not just in what's available just off the street, but how you get to it, what's happening on the street in terms of variety, color, scale. I am big about scale because I'm the old building guy here. Old buildings are naturally built with scale. The first floor or two is one realm, and then everything above that is something else. Modern architecture doesn't respect that much. It comes, as you know, crashing into the pavement, it's the same from there. I personally think we need to move on from that. That's really not a great urban environment, for, 5.5 to 6 foot people. And you have opportunities to mitigate that here. And when you develop your designs, I would only suggest that you really do focus in on that and look for variety and look for any number of things to help to make that experience, even if they're just passing through your side on the way to the college or on the way to the courthouse or whatever, that this would be an experience in and of itself, not dependent upon what's happening in the buildings next to it to be a remarkable experience. You got room for it. You're gonna have the traffic. I think you have an opportunity to do things in that regard that we don't get. We don't have any right to expect from a lot of projects. But you got the way to do it, and the vision to do it, which is great. And with that, I think that's pretty kind of what I've got. Any questions from y'all? Again, we appreciate the project. We think it's great. We're supportive of it.
Thank you.
Look forward to
Thank you.
seeing some more.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me the green guy.
I suspect you don't need me to do that. You got projects out there
Oh, I just.
like we park with
I put that comment in the mirror every morning when I'm shaving. Thank you for your time. Thank you to the city for everything, and we're gonna keep on going.
All right, thank you.
Wonderful.
Good luck.
Yes.
Thank you.
All
We
right.
will take much.
Bye. See that? I was going to have that question, and I forgot it today. And I'm glad it's communicated. They aren't as far. Okay. And if I can make it, I'll do. Yeah. It's terrible. I can never put my finger on it. Yeah. I think.
Are there any numbers on
I've been, I was moving this yesterday,
Okay. Yeah. Really? Well, it's interesting, because it's been 2 years since I was at Renaissance. I never went to Bank of America because I had one of those next to me at Renaissance. And there, yeah, it's on the pyramid next to me, yeah. And, you go in there, and the only thing that was really, even then, the only thing that was really good was the Chick-fil-A. You appreciate it. Good luck.
I know.
Have fun.
No problem.
Have some more fun.
Yeah, so take my notes. Jen is doing the same. Yeah, we're putting it in our private house. So just as crazy as you are.
We'll invite others.
We're excited.
Yes. All right. I think we're good.
Good.
Morning.
Yeah, I'm saying it, yeah.
You got your hands full.
Hey, you didn't check out.
Yeah, that, well, I didn't say that, but.
Yeah. We have.
A likely rating.
Okay.
Small guy.
Well, you calm down with The 18th.
I didn't know.
We have got, yeah,
I've got faith that
we're focusing on the 18th. We're going to engineering today.
What is the presentation? What is the best way to have it?
I didn't know we were doing a presentation.
Well, no, I just have it as that.
Oh, okay, typically we don't,
That's okay.
but, if we need to reference it, we can.
It is. I'll do that.
I want to show.
And plus, then something, I haven't heard anything. Was it,
That's fine.
Washington bought it, so could be anything. Oh. Yeah, please.
We start down here.
No, you can hold them up for it, then you talk to them. Yeah, if you don't mind, no problem. Well, we do have.
I mean, why is there like every year that it's
So we have the.
We just said.
You can sort of, sing it down, you can present any way you want.
I wish I could sing it.
That's the same thing.
Just stepping down to the
Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
Let's get these in order. So we got this one. And the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is all.
Evidently should have some recognition. It has been,
Yeah.
it's been an anchor point in downtown Dallas for 40 years.
Hopefully they're able to.
Yes. Well,
They've come through with
okay. Yes. Seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
That was the thing I liked about it. Forward. Sounds like a good guy. We can school. You get no idea.
One of the. That is an awful fucking lot of stuff. Get a lot of sun.
Yeah. How do they manage sway? Rooftop.
Well, the answer would be the answer would be across the street over at Republic, because that building was absolutely sway. I had got an office there, we complained about the blinds. And yeah, no, it's, it would, you see.
I hear that front door.
All this buildings.
Yeah.
And every time an architect comes to us with a rooftop building, it's like, guys.
It's a way.
Yeah, it's a way, it's flat. We, again, the
It's a hydraulic balance to help mitigate.
Okay. I think we're about ready, if y'all are. We are. Well, good morning. Welcome to the Urban Design panel. My name is Norman Alston. I am vice chair and chairing this morning. Ray, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Maria Gomez with GFX. Happy to be here talking to you guys.
I'm James Fry with HUTV, landscape architect. And full disclosure, our office in this building, so I'm looking forward to having.
All right, we have insight. I love insight. We do have fellow colleagues who we apologize couldn't be here this morning, but as I told you, you have the 18th today. We have so we can help.
And James needs to be that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Just be mindful.
After, it should be okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, well, we'll just see how that goes. So, Doro, if you'd like to. I'm sorry, it's like you do, it's a habit, all right? It's like that habit. I'll have habit, but
Well, right.
I'm better.
No, we have another tower conversion project, Pacific Elm Properties realizing converting the 40-story Bryan Tower commercial building into multifamily residences, organized into 3 residential communities with several units designated for mixed income housing. Additionally, the project includes the renovation of the detached garage and retail spaces connected to the tower by a contemporary glass sky bridge. The development's design emphasizes ease of access, encouraging exploration with pedestrian-friendly pathways, landscape sidewalks, and thoughtfully integrated art installations, all contributing to a sense of intrigue and connectivity. And over to the design team.
Great. So my name is Billy Pruitt. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of Pacific Elm Properties, and I'll let the design team tell us.
Hello, Tally with Tally Associates, Planning Landscape Architects.
Kirsten Sessa with Gensler, I'm a principal.
I'm Justin Bashal, I'm an architect with Gibson.
Eric Antrim with Towson Associates.
Full disclosure, I definitively expected the prior presentation to go longer, so I told the team in advance to sort of cut down the presentation a little bit to prevent some deal fatigue. So we're going to try to focus on the elements of this project that we think are most relevant to the urban design peer review panel. Obviously, the vast majority of what is happening here is happening inside the 40 stories of the building because we're converting all 40 stories. So that's the bulk of the project. But there are some really sort of, I think, interesting and compelling design challenges as it relates to urban design for this building in this neighborhood. And we'll touch on some of those. Just a little bit of the groundwork. What we are including in this project and what we own is the Bryan Tower office building. That's the 40-story building. You've got 2 surface parking lots that are a combination of fee simple ownership and ground leases. And then you've got a parking garage that we control via a ground lease with roughly 40 years of term left. And that includes this. So some of the sort of elements are arranged in a way that they are as a reflection of the ownership structure. We've laid out some images here. I think when you start thinking about what our charge to the architecture team was, the biggest challenge with this building and from our perspective, this sort of part of town is it's a little lost. It doesn't really have an identity. People, if you look at some of the downtown 360 plan, they'll tell you this is in the Pennsylvania commercial district, which most people have probably never heard of or didn't even know that was a thing. So our challenge is to try to put this building in this project in a neighborhood. We're not trying to create a new district, we're trying to connect it to an existing district. And what we feel like makes the most sense is to try to leverage the public investment that's been made in Clybourne Park and in the Arts District, the private investment that's already happened at Trammell Crow Center and the JW Marriott Garage, and create some focused connectivity between that area and Bryan Tower, not just Bryan Tower, but also the Dart Station. And one of the challenges with the neighborhood and with downtown as a whole is our dark rail stations have kind of lost a sense of purpose. So a lot of what we're trying to do is not just sort of address the building, but connect this Dart Station to the Arts District and to Clybourne Park. We've laid out some images here in front of you. This is basically showing you the streetscape as you walk from Clybourne Park, past the Arts District, down to the JW Marriott. And this image I've pulled out is what you see when you cross to Dog Rock. I'd like to remind the team that one of the things we like to say is if you are pushing a stroller or walking a dog, you can't get from our building to Clybourne Park without going in the street. there's plenty of room here for good urban design, it just doesn't exist. So we've got a lot of positives and a lot of neighborhoods don't have. We've got trees. A lot of our trees are in the wrong place, and that creates a real challenge for us. Let's see, there's another image somewhere here, but I'm not gonna pull it out. We have trees along this sidewalk. It's, what is it, a 5 foot?
5 foot sidewalk.
Trees in the middle that are growing at an angle. I can't walk down the sidewalk without ducking. So we have a lot of the elements that you would think we wanted to add in terms of trees and landscaping. We just have them in the wrong places. The other thing that has been a big focus of the team, other than sort of creating this connectivity to the design district, to Clybourne Park, and to the BART stop, is the functional circulation. And we see a lot of projects. I'm on the TIF board. I see projects on the TIF board. I'm sure you guys see them. Adaptive reuse projects. And after sort of having owned multiple buildings in downtown for the last 12 or 13 years, one of our primary focuses and guides to the team is to make sure that these buildings function. We tend to hold the buildings that we invest in for a long period of time. And so we're very focused on what happens after the project's done and after people move in. So one of the big focuses here is you're gonna have 1,000 people living in this building. That means a lot of move-ins, a lot of move-outs. We have an existing loading dock here on this side, so that's gonna be our primary way of getting people moved into the building and moved out of the building. But when you start thinking about Uber Eats and Amazon deliveries, one of the really important things that we're doing here is trying to create this path of circulation where you can cut in front of the building to have an arrival experience. The truth is, it's more of a pop-up experience. We don't really see a lot of our tenants in here. This is probably going to be deliveries and service. And then if that doesn't work, there's a bailout. You can come across the street, pull into parking. If you drive an Amazon delivery truck, you can pull in a parallel park here, and then you can repeat it. One of the challenges with this and the building is there is an existing trolley that runs in front of the building, so managing the curb of the trolley. The trolley stop today is here. We'd like to move it to here to give this island some activation and a sense of purpose. But you can imagine if we don't make this move, we will get, whether we want it or not, people parking on the street in front of the building, in front of the trolley, not realizing that the trolley is active and going into the building and trying to find a drop off. So this is one of the most important functional things that we're doing. The other big move is just trying to answer the question of how do you deliver the amenities that you need for effectively 4 apartment complexes. Typical apartment complex is 250 units. We've got 1,000, you could call that 5. We're choosing to break it down into 3 because of how the elevated ranks. So we've got 250 unit communities, 1 500 unit community. As we think about downtown, what we're trying to do is add people at every price point. So what breaking up allows us to do is establish a more value-oriented community in the middle, sort of a standard middle market, bread and butter community in the center of the building, and then do some larger units, different unit types, more luxury oriented up at the top to just try to hit as many demographics as we possibly can. There will be some discrete amenities in the building for each community to sort of help reinforce the sense that they are student communities and give people some options. Out here, these are all shared amenities. We've obviously gathered our pool area over here on the east side of the building, on the sport court. All the parking for the building is in this garage. This is 1,500 space garage. It is shared with 717 Harwood, which is the Hilltop Securities building, formerly KPG. And we also share some of this parking with 20 Mount Ross, which is this catty corner here. So those are really the sort of big public moves is improving the circulation along this sidewalk, delivering amenities and sort of trying to take away this 2-acre asphalt surface parking lot that disconnects the building from what's going on here. And then the last thing is really just more of a design question is, what do you do with this gold facade international style building? Is it cool? Is it not cool? We think it is cool, but we think the transition from this to this, you know, this doesn't do anything to connect what's happening over here to what's happening over here. We could renovate the entire garage and completely reskin it. It would be a profound waste of public funds, I think, in order to ask for enough of a subsidy to do that. So as we've tried to sort of pre-value engineer the project to get the TIF ask down as much as possible, we decided that we're really just going to focus on this garage facade. If you're familiar with it, the retail that has existed in this sort of breezeway condition for the last 40 years has virtually no street presence. The signage for it isn't even on the most prominent edge of the garage. The signage is recessed.
Still on the corner?
Carmine's is the only living retailer.
Okay.
They sit on the corner.
You don't know they're there. Okay.
We've tried everything we can to keep retail alive as this project has been in gestation. We had the barbecue joint basically lock the door and hand us the keys maybe 6-9 months ago. We're working on a 6-month extension for Carmine's to try to keep them just in the space. Retail, as an office owner for other properties in the neighborhood, retail is obviously a key to downtown. And so the big focus on this front is this is across the street from 717 Harbor. There's a Solana across the street. This is sort of the best opportunity we have to deliver retail that is sustainable. And, you know, we could show you retail all the way around the garage. We could sort of show you great pictures, but again, we live with these projects. We've designed retail space that isn't sustainable. We're currently subsidizing multiple restaurants just to keep it open in downtown. So our focus here is on delivering retail that the neighborhood can support and delivering the bodies that can sort of improve that support so that over time, the retail that we can have can improve. Just one other sort of housekeeping thing, and then I'll turn it over to the team if they want to make any statements, and I'll turn it over to you guys. This is a historic building. We've been spending the last couple of years taking it through the process. It's officially listed in the National Register of Historic Places. A lot of what we're able to do on the ground plane of Ryan Tower is constrained by that. We have already submitted, we originally designed this as a 50-50 conversion, and we've already submitted our Part 2 application to the National Park Service. So there are some ambitious elements that we included in our initial design that they've already sort of pushed back. So what you see on the ground floor here is less ambitious, but very realistic in light of sort of the feedback we've already received. Is there anything important that I missed that we'd like to cover before we turn it over to the right?
Okay. The way we typically do this, and you've been here before, but you've all heard it, I'm sure, but our panel, what there is of it, will, you got the AK, it's gonna be okay. We will go through and all ask our questions at one time and then come back and make our comments and recommendations. I'll start on my right this time, James, if you have questions.
Yeah, I start, question 18.
You remember it wanted to be, I wouldn't come in either. Let's see it. You're the 18th.
How far along in design? You said you're going to tip.
So we're very far along. We designed it as a 50-50 conversion initially, and we actually have construction permits.
Okay.
So the first sort of half of the conversion activity is been fully priced. We could go to contract imminently. The challenge with this project is financing. That's the challenge with all Dallas real estate projects at this point. We are pursuing along through the Department of Transportation's TIVIA program. So the transit elements of this project are important components of the project. At the same time that we decided to pivot to a 100% conversion, that's frankly based on a lot of lessons learned from other conversion projects in downtown relating to just the operations on the back end and operating costs. We're trying to get the operating costs down as low as possible, and mixed use, vertically stacked mixed use makes great product, but there are operating cost challenges with it because you have to operate to kind of the highest common denominator. And the 100% conversion here basically helps make it make more financial sense.
Yeah. I must be getting old because I know this area too well. I feel like, just like the other group, I've watched this area too change, especially since 2020. But I can remember when that whole ground floor restaurant, I mean, you could hardly get in to a lot of those places. And then just the line out the door, every single one. And I also remember the other side, the east side of the ground floor, there were some there, back in the day. So I understand the challenge. Also, surface lots. Thought many a day about how that can be used differently. It is a distance from the building to the garage. I guess a question I have related to that is, do you feel like you have enough parking in that garage for the kind of residential you're talking about?
Yes. One of the biggest advantages of adaptive reuse in downtown in general is the ability to cross-utilize parking at different times of day. Based on our experience with our existing conversions, residents use approximately 0.3 per thousand. So it's like an office tenant that uses 0.3 per thousand, whereas office tenants use 3 per thousand. We don't own the 717 Harwood building that we share the garage with, but it will certainly be one of the major beneficiaries of this conversion, because right now you have over 2 million square feet of office space sharing a 1,500 space garage. So this will allow us to offer them more parking than they currently have. It'll allow us to offer 2,100 Ross, some additional offsite parking. And then obviously, like nights and weekends, 1,500 spaces is enough spaces for 1,000.
Yeah. Being there, we go at a challenge telling people we're Bryant Tower, but don't drive on Bryant.
It doesn't exist. We're going to change.
Yeah,
I'm going to change the name.
So will there be? I guess I don't know this answer, but there's been talk about two-way street versions. Any of that in the works? Or?
Yeah. So I think really you're probably talking about Harwood Street. The questions we got and sort of the early analysis, there were questions about potential closing federal. We're opposed to that. We would definitively support the two-way conversion of Harwood Street. There's, I think, $15 million that was approved in the last bond package for a complete streets program for Harwood. I'm going to say 15 each. It's like 13, 17. I don't remember which is which. But San Jacinto and Harwood were both called out in the last bond package as complete streets, sort of potential streets. The guide to the design team was basically we can't have this held up by the two-way conversion. So we've designed to the neighborhood as is. If it changes before we get to actually constructing, we'd love to collaborate with transportation on any design modifications that are necessary to make the two-way conversion happen. But what you see here is a reflection of sort of civic space in its current utilization.
I'll last question, if you're doing everything you can to protect us, that's at this corner, are with
I really wanted to include a request in this TIF proposal for $1.8 million to buy out the contract on all of the kiosks in the city, but I was told not to. So, I hate kiosks, I hate new kiosks, and anything you guys can do to help us fight that, we would.
Don't read your text messages when you're walking there, you'll walk right in.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who walks there.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I got a couple, let me make sure I'm clear on this. So I had not heard about the, historic designation of Bronze Tower. That's fantastic. I'm a historic guy, so I love that stuff. And so if you've gone for part two, you are pretty advanced in your planning for that building. Looks like you're not that far with the other. For instance, I don't see any designs for what might be happening on that one side of the tower, of the parking garage.
Yeah, that's
I think that's.
In the back of the deck, there's some elevations for.
Okay.
Those, but
So, from a standpoint, the garage was deemed to be non-contributing.
Correct.
And so when you talk about how advanced are the plans, because historic was such a big piece of that, was our initial focus was trying to get that done. So you're absolutely right. The garage facade design is less far along.
Okay.
We've also we've entertained some different uses other than retail, potential healthcare facility. So depending upon the nature of the retailer, it could end up looking like the nature and configuration, but we're definitively committed to this facade and activating the ground floor.
You're committed to that area, but the designs are preliminary, or how far along are these? I'm gonna comment on that, they can tell me that's just something we came up with last night.
No, trust me, it's been months. By the way, I officed here at Polo Street since
Yeah.
'95.
Right, I know where you are now, since that's the level.
And I've been to Carmine's more than I care.
Yeah, there you go. I'm learning.
And this whole piece is a big deal. We also did JW Marriott, not the garage part, but when Marriott came in and did that. The idea of the light poles coming from Clyde North, which is a white light pole, real simple topology, coming all the way through there with special paving with flora. We have all these great kind of moments.
Right.
We want to undo everything with the 80s granite chip and the paving and all that to make that relevant and respect the modernist interpretation with what we're doing here as a kind of outdoor gathering space with the real translucents going into these lunchtime spots, basically, and that's what they are.
Sure.
And I don't know if you remember in the 80s, all these parking garages, zoning was retail bottom.
Yeah.
You just did that. So these are 8-foot ceilings,
Right.
really low. And Justin's popping that up. And this is just kind of the beginning, but it's about bringing people all the way through from Clybourne to our piece.
That is my question.
Yeah.
Because you made a point of the focus from Clybourne down, the things we were looking at a minute ago wasn't very developed for that. I'm really interested in your more detailed question, your concept for how you make that connection. You're talking about the poles. That's one of
We have the pole, and we have the idea of the breeze blocks, we have the edge conditions, we have the landscape edges, we have, so this piece at the Nasher, we have at, where's that? Against the viewport of the lobby against this whole edge. We're gonna do this against the garage on the back side.
Okay.
So that's going to be literally 60 feet, and we can go in about 30 feet. The new soil prep, I don't know if you remember 400 record, we did the redevelopment, and we're on that. That's the level we intend to do. The paving, the light, and this is safety lighting too. Pedestrian lighting and street lighting, we want to get those photometrics up to around 3. We want to get the hardscape paving up. And we also need a canopy as a big element for the drop-off. And we came back and really looked at this. We have the public way access along Federal on the exterior. We hope to have the trolley stop right out in front of these doors, so you have a little canopy there, you can sit waiting on the trolley and really have a good transparency. We need your help for this really modernist component here as we go to National Park Service for asking for this canopy. Remember, adaptive reuse,
Right.
and we need that for residents.
That can't be
Detach it.
It's detached.
Yeah, okay, but that should work.
It floats off of the building.
That should work. I've seen it lots of times, particularly on the back.
They're still pushing back on it.
The state level or the federal level?
Jenna, do you remember?
It's federal national
No,
park.
the gentleman who just retired,
Oh, you're talking about,
He's a, what is
the
it?
Greg,
Yes. Who's the HCC reviewer for?
right. Right. Okay, well,
So
as
we're
you said,
hoping
he's
if we ask
retired.
again, they're gonna give us.
I would think, yeah, well, I'm sure you probably want to
Greg
see him, but Greg Smith, yeah, he is retired, but he was a National Register guy, and so the tax credits will be reviewed by a tax credit reviewer. That's not what he was doing. Do you have somebody else? Catherine Sheldon or somebody is looking at this?
He was for the historic tax rates at the state level for the National Registry, was my understanding.
That's
I
interesting.
don't have anybody else.
All right, well, anyway, Greg was pretty hard nosed, I think.
Yeah.
What our experience has been is that, you know, it's compatible, but it doesn't remove historic fabric, doesn't attach, so it's not poking holes or anything, which they can be really itchy about. And I thought it's on, it really is on the back facade. You're making it more of a primary facade, but historically, that is not the primary facade. I can't imagine, push back hard on them, I can't imagine they have.
We're gonna let her from you.
I'm not sure how they feel about that today. Let me get a couple things squared away, but okay.
The detail on the connection from 5-1 part, we're probably a little bit light on it, but the reason for that is the most important move is where we choose to set our edges and creating space to accommodate that pedestrian zone. So really we're ignoring sort of the current locations of the sidewalks and the fencing that we're setting around our perimeter is we're pulling all of our sort of private space back to creating.
So let's talk about this.
No, let's not. Let's not, because we're in the question phase. I took us down a rabbit hole, but I'm gonna get us back out of it for a second. I don't even need to ask questions when we get to discussion. Along Maria to have a chance to get her questions out, so make sure.
I was actually gonna ask about the fences, I mean, sorry.
Sorry, I interrupted it now, I'm not calling.
Before I go to the next question, so you're activating from a retail standpoint, the hardwood side, nothing happening on,
There is retail space over there. It's currently being used as office space. So there's a garage operator who's actually running their sort of downtown office out of that space. We've gone back and forth on it. One of the biggest challenge with retail space on that side is the trolley, and the trolley preventing the ability for any sort of pickup. We've considered trying to propose relocating the trolley to the other side of Olive Street as it sort of makes that turn on Federal instead of coming back to our curb, going to the other. We basically abandoned that idea, and have kind of decided to leave it in place, but if the project that is planned for across the street from us goes, there's currently a residential high rise that's under works here. And if Trammell Crow Center ever sort of develops the residential tower on this site, then there's more of an opportunity. The other thing we are talking about doing, is not shown here, but this corner, we're working on adding an elevator and an elevator lobby, because the current elevators are here and here. And this building only has 0.5 per thousand parking beneath it. So one of the challenges of using this excess parking for this building is there's no elevator access. So we're talking about turning this corner into basically the elevator lobby.
I would say that if we got hardwood really activated to Clyde One, that's a primary. And then maybe years later, this happens. So it's gold.
Yeah. So the street, I mean, you got 4 blocks, you got 4 sides, and each one has its own influences. That could be the right thing happens across the street, and then they can move to the top. So that's the fun.
Today, all we have to interact with is 2 empty lots and 14-story parking garage.
We actually did a study on this last year that has been shopped around from Alberta, California. That's
We would really love to expand the sidewalk on the San Jacinto side if San Jacinto, it's got redone, so we can take some additional width there. So that's one of the things we're hopeful will change. It's currently out.
So I see the diagram with other fencing, so the other, I mean, is there I see a gate here, so there's a door with it's.
so there's first, when this was just a split 50-50, where the pool was over here. Now we've grown this quite a bit because we're 1,000 people. So the idea is to make this experiential. The idea is not to put our walls on the property line edges, to do setbacks, to these walking zones, walk the dog, we get grass edges, and then planting beyond that, and then the layers of landscape in some of this fencing components. Here is an articulated breeze block edge with a trellis with pivot gates that stay open, but close at night. There may be a food truck for events. There's an idea that there's a bar dedicated to this pool area, outdoor dining, a grill area. You come over from underneath, walk across, or you drop down with this vestibule component here as a stairway down. So it's to be really activated and make this park-like setting. Again, not for 300 residents, which typically has 500 or 600 square foot pool. This has a 3,500, but to activate that throughout the year.
You're asking about access. The location for the gate over here is moved around, but one of the sort of guidelines was to the team was if somebody offices on our side and it's walking home, we want them to get home as soon as possible. So the idea that, if we have an entry over here, you can sort of come in through here and effectively be home, and then vice versa, like the perceived walking distance from your property to Clyde One Park. If the property is here instead of here, that shortens the distance. We're also adding a little kiosk here sort of within this area, which is an important move for the second floor. We've got this sky bridge. Most of the activity in terms of residents is going to be parking in the garage and coming across the sky bridge for the most part. So trying to sort of extend that second floor lobby experience across the sky bridge to here so that this is all sort of part of the same thing, as opposed to it's really today 2 very distinct.
That's always a weird kind of
Like you're leaving the building and walking across the neighborhood to get to a garage on the other
Are
side.
you putting an elevator there?
I think we have to. I think we, I think we have to. I know we have an ornamental staircase.
Some residential type of.
Oh, no.
building with
No, it's right here.
It's right here.
It's right there.
Yeah, the elevator's existing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
that's
elevator's
what we were
existing,
just supposed to
and
do.
But you're not adding one to this.
No, it's not within that, it'll just be an ornamental stair.
It's also important because it gives people something to look at. Sidewalks, so if you're sort of the visual obstruction of whatever we put in terms of fencing and that sort of thing, let's say it goes up to. You still have this sky bridge and that's where the jewel box coming off of it. It doesn't just look like a wall where you can't see anything on the other side, but the fact that you can pick up what's going on the other side visually above it allows us to try to mitigate.
Okay. We'll go into the,
Really quick, sorry, I've got an email from Faisal, who's probably in a dentist chair right now in his ground place, but he had a question if I could ask that for him.
he's watching this.
You know, he's a dedicated guy.
Well, I know, but I didn't imagine that. Please, let's have
Just one question to Faisal, and that's really, was there any, ever any concern about noise and privacy for the amenity space, and did you ever consider raising that space a little bit?
Noise and privacy.
From the street?
We actually considered lowering some.
So what we had is at Harwood Street, we have a flat edge and then a step up wall. But these, sports courts, they're recessed down. So they're down in the sunken. And then we'll utilize that for a grading standpoint.
There's a great change as you go from Olive to Harwood. It's gradual, but it's probably, what is it, a 3 foot?
Yeah, basically, it's a plate all across and then Harwood steps down.
And so we're going to be sinking some of the sports courts. It also creates kind of seating and some boundaries to contain. That's so that if you've got a fence at the street level that's a certain height, and then you're inside of that, if you're high enough that you're sort of looking over that fence, I think the sense of privacy and the fact that you're kind of in this space from a resident standpoint, we want them to feel like this is their private space. And so sinking down was kind of a way to accomplish that. We're really trying to, we understand the sort of urban design priorities, and we're really trying to sort of proactively balance that with what the residents want. Like the residents want a big wall where nobody can ever see in that is as private as possible. And the developer wants that wall to be as cheap as possible. And the neighborhood doesn't want either one of those things. And so, we're trying to incorporate a certain percentage of partially screened walls, a certain percentage of the sort of vertical pickets that you really have quite a bit of transparency. We've got some glass railing primarily over here on this side. And we're trying to do our sort of transparency strategically in places where if you are sitting out here kind of in a bathing suit, certain sun zones, it's less impactful, but the pedestrians still face it.
We're going to continue on with that conversation. James has to run, so if you've got comments or recommendations, we'll go ahead and let you get those in for us.
Thanks. I like the direction, and I think you got a lot of work to do. I'd say just continue to think about this, not only the north edge, but if you think about around the garage, that the San Jacinto experience is pretty awful once you get past Carmen. It's just, very dark and strange. I do think, I like the future thought around, and the east side of the garage. I was gonna ask you, answer my question about the new development over here and how that plays in. Having walked this a zillion times from Bryan Tower over, when you're on the ground, something just to keep in mind is it's crazy. Some days the wind through there, what's it called, where you literally have
Like a wind street.
I mean,
What we use for the technical term, windy.
So you think about fencing, but you're thinking about, access, you may really consider break that, because I can't imagine the experience in this space on some of those days where it's almost hard to walk under.
And I've done this walk from this parking lot right here, it comes here,
It
just flags.
It's
Right.
crazy what that
And the
does.
fact that they don't open the doors, it becomes
Right.
stifling.
Right, so the building, over the years, they stick little signs up, maybe close the door, because and I don't know if there's anything to be done there, but I'm thinking about being out in that space during one of those events. You know, any trees, something that create windbreaks.
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind. You know, I could go on and on, you know, the kind of the connection to dark. We haven't talked a lot about this other side over here. This seems to, while this was front door, it feels like the forgotten side right now as a tenant. That it's sort of like it feels back door and.
We've had a lot of pushback from the parks side, national parks, in terms of what we can do. We wanted to make this edge the public, and then this courtyard edge.
Right.
We wanted to do those sort of vertical thickets, like real transparent, but claiming the space as the resident's backyard.
Yeah.
And there was strong opposition to sort of anything that impacts access and how people sort of interact with that side.
It's really more than access. It's any kind of adjustment to the paving hardscape that's there now.
One
Vertically or horizontally.
of my hot button items is managing pets. I forget how many piles of dog stuff, EDI picks up every year, so. The dog park and the proximity of the dog park is important. I'd actually like to see the dog park expanded and potentially wrap more of that backside, just because the practicality of somebody taking a dog out, getting to it with like 2:00 in the morning on a, you know, rainy day or whatever, taking advantage of that cutting under the facade is sort of development. So we see that as the backyard. It's not as developed as we would like. We'll probably continue to push for some sort of claiming of the space. When we go back to part two with the full conversion, that's one of the things we're gonna put, that and the awning are the two sort of elements that we feel like we're gonna fight the next time.
I'm sorry I have to leave.
Thank you.
Now you have 18.
Speaking of 18, how's it going for you down there, Ray? This is a pretty free-flowing conversation.
No, we're good.
You're good? All right. I'm gonna make one comment about that and let's start on our discussions here. So the technique I would recommend you consider is just if you can take a primary facade like the Bryan Street side of the Bryan Street Tower, by the way, no, we'll talk about that later. The Bryan Street facade, the Bryan Street Tower. If you do that better than you have to, if it's more authentic and more like the original store condition, you can get brownie points for things you want to do on the backside. To make some of the stuff you do on the back easier. So look, we're doing this, we're doing this in the spirit of the tax credits. And preserving this important building, and this is the side that most people think of. Now, before the train came in, but even so, this is the side everybody thinks of. This backside, we need to make that work. We can't do some stuff there. Help us out here. Like, they shouldn't give you any trouble on that back canopy. We'll talk about that. But yeah, you might go ahead and just design yourself to that. And that's how you get the advantage for your project out of that front side, is use that as say, look what we've done here, and we've made it. Here's a photograph. Look, it's just like it was. But to do this, we need some help on the back. That usually works, frankly. So anyway,
I appreciate that.
So with that, Maria, what do you think? What are your ideas here?
Well, I appreciate the commitment to doing such a large conversion. Must be a little daunting with that many units. I think the treatment of the gate is thoughtful. I like how it's being layered and there's different expressions of how it works and different levels of screening, which I think breaks it up quite a bit, makes it feel a bit more soft, both for the people outside and the people inside, so I like the approach. And I definitely think that the opportunity from an urban standpoint is really on par with the how you're treating those retail spaces and providing shading. There was a canopy that was one of these renderings, and it's hopefully in the future there will be an opportunity to, you don't have as much space on that side, but also take some of that thought process and utilize it on others.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Maria. Okay, and I will second the notion that it's great to take this on and to try to do these things. Our previous project was on the other end of downtown, and boy, they need a lot down there. This side doesn't need as much, but there's certainly many things here that we can do to improve the urban experience, and that is, of course, our job and our expertise. Again, I'm thrilled that you've gone to historic route with Bryan Tower. A lot of people don't see it as historic, surprise, but it is. And as a lifelong resident here, my mom even had her oil company offices in that tower. That is and so I am a little sad that we can't keep some office space in there, so some of the rest of us can office in that tower like JR or whoever at one point. But I understand your limitations there. So when you said, yeah, you thought it looked cool, and I agree. Maybe not what we would want to do today with those colors, but our grandkids will love it. We just take our grandkids will think that's the coolest building in downtown. We just do it that way. I like the idea very much of that's why I pushed on the concept of how are we making the connection. Because that is an important intersection right there. It's a very urban intersection where Bryan and Hartwick come together, and with the trains and everything. Again, when I actually officed in the post office building for several years, and I would go back and forth through there a great deal. That's where I found permanence. So I understand the importance of that connection of that strip right there. That's why I asked about what's happening at the garage, because that is, I think, really a critical area. And there's a lot of opportunity there. Again, I told our previous applicants that, when you're dealing with pedestrian experience, when you're at the street level, I, as a preservation architect, understand that historic street fronts are often attractive because of, and there's just something about them. It's because they have all their fun in the first 2 stories, 1 or 2 stories. It's a scale issue, and there's usually more detail, more color and stuff to form a pediment, and then they are a pedestal, and then they other things happen above that. That's a classic architectural approach. That still works for downtown retail, and I'm glad to see that y'all are taking that up. I was a little afraid we were going to get glass walls all across here again. No, that's not the idea. I think you'll benefit by getting scale, texture, variety to a point. You maybe don't rely entirely upon your tenants to provide that. I think architecturally and from an urban design perspective, there's a lot of opportunity here. You're definitely on the right course with that. So I'm very fond of that too. I do want to know, I do wonder a little bit about this. I understand your physical limitations here. But, when you're bringing people all the way down, what we can, what I thought we would see when I saw this, I can see it, you get clear views of your cars. There's a lot of service, right? We're bringing them all the way down to this building, and before we get them there, we've really got our service entrance. I mean, you're mitigating it as you can, but we got a parking lot here, a surface parking lot here, and a drop-off place. And you can't see any of the cool stuff. Now you say your tenants don't want you to see the cool stuff. Maybe we need a little depth of cool stuff between the sidewalk and those elements then, because I do think
Right in there.
That's a little bit, I'm thinking more of these, again, it's the experience as you go down a street and you get these glimpses, that gives you the impression of where you are. And I just wonder if that's really, the impression that we want here. Go ahead, Coy, you got it.
Here's the idea that this becomes a pavilion piece here.
Okay,
It's really not illustrated
I'm
well.
about to say, where?
The other thing is that this is really strong vertical signage, like strong as an address monument right here. Then we have this requirement of 12-foot walks here. So this becomes just a very simple tree line edge with this continuation of lights that happen all the way down from Terminal Road Center.
Right,
And we changed our light fixture to meet what they have
right.
and do streets and pedestrian. And then at great paving, this is a single loaded parking lot. So it's really a simple valet court with a grove of trees.
That's really there because we're concerned about our prospective tenants not knowing how to get to the building. Like if you don't live here yet and you're showing up to lease and we tell you to park over here, you're probably never gonna make it.
Here's the lesson learned on this, Norm. I moved to Atelier, off of Purple with their drop off zone.
Okay,
And it's two cars wide. And I don't know how many units there are, 500 units or so. But you can't even get in there ever. It's just a mess. And if this doesn't operate right, this is going to be a mess here.
This is going to feel like a very, very nice, like this is the first impression that our new prospect gets. So just in terms of the visual and sort of design, it will not feel like a back door,
So-
just like a.
And it's sort of be a park that you park in with a back facade of a breeze-block wall with trellis coming out. It's like a DMA kind of moment there,
okay.
if you will, with this arrival piece canopy and just a little pocket.
All right, have you, I have to, again, given what this is, with an auto thing here, is necessary, is it not? Did you consider having the loop within Federal Street and not interrupting, again, this major, this that you've described with another one of these things?
You're saying.
Yeah, come out that, you wouldn't want to do it here, you'd have to come out over here someplace, so you come in, you can't get in here, so you loop around, you park in here, when you come out here and go the other way. Instead of dropping them onto here and having that, again, that pedestrian auto conflict here and getting in here just 200 feet away.
So the concern with that is, and do this drive all the time, with Olive being one way this way and St. Justino being one way this way. If you're headed from Bryan Tower to Santander Tower, and you can't go out here and go south, you've got to go all the way up to Ross Avenue
Yes,
and then turn left.
I understand, but that's only for these people, that's only for temporary guest parking and service vehicles. For the residents, I can understand that. For the low traffic that you, hopefully it's really high traffic, all the people coming in wanting to rent, but still, as a secondary sort of service thing, I don't know that you're asking that much to loop around. The rest of us do that all the time, really. I mean, I try to go from my Deep Ellum office to the AIA office on St. Paul, and that's one of those things, I have to come all the way to Ross to come over and come back down, which is ridiculous, but that's another problem that we have in downtown that we're not gonna solve here. So I just think that this works counter to your concept.
You're right, it is a pedestrian overlap.
Yeah.
Our big issue is couples in the Ponte plan. We gotta undo some of that.
Okay, yes,
So
let's do it, but Okay,
You're saying you'd like to see that, just do that.
I just think that I think the arrival at Bryan Tower as you come down from Cloudworm Park is compromised. I don't know that given your program, you can do anything. My first thought was, can we not flip that with the pool and stuff and put all the amenities over here and let the service stuff happen over off of Olive Street where it's a lot less impactful? Cause that's, this is your front door now. You have proclaimed, this is your front door and your exit. Can we, I think we need a little space, a little help here, that's all. Urban design.
The restaurant we do have here is here on this corner. We're also thinking that visually sort of being able to see where your parking opportunity is. If you're driving here, most people will be walking there, but if you're driving there, but it's like, because I want to always encourage the team to be as open-minded, be all as feedback as possible. I've shared in the past that living with these things after the fact, there's been quite a few times where I look around and go, hey, we should have worked harder to actually incorporate the feedback. So
I'm going to call you about that later.
If
We have a need for that testimony right there.
If we come out here, maybe we try to like line up here or something.
We'll have,
If we come out here, like, doesn't this end up feeling more monolithic? Like, I actually thought maybe the break here kind of helps.
An auto crossing is never a benefit, in my opinion. I think anytime someone has to watch for cars, it's a detraction. Think about it. We give advice.
Yeah.
I think you have made this your strength. I think it's rightful to do so. This is your main alleyway here, access lane here. And I can tell you nearly anybody, in fact, I didn't do this with the first guys because they dumped a parking garage onto their primary, pedestrian improvement zone, and I'm wondering if they couldn't have changed that. I've remembered it here. It's just keeping the auto crossing in your primary pedestrian spaces, keeping it to a minimum, I think is an important thing to try to do.
and totally agree with you. But here is Trammell Grove Center.
Mhm.
They have Forest Street, and then they have the entrance to the garage right here.
Right.
So, but this is 8 spaces.
Right.
And how we deal with that is with great paving and great understanding that, hey, this car, you're not in the parking lot, you're in this little court.
So I'm not worried about the cars and the drivers. I'm worried about the people walking down to your building. I don't care. I don't, you can put asphalt on it and have them, because they're only there for a little bit. That's just as long as you kind of screen it. I don't care what their experience is. You do. I don't. As an urban design element, I just am concerned about, that just seems counter to what you have proclaimed this is going to do.
So they're coming down to the building, we get rid of this. It's really less about our tenant because they're gonna have to cross that car either here or there.
Mhm.
So it's really more about somebody that's not coming to our building and
It's the urban environment. Yeah,
continuing past it.
right.
Like if we,
Just think about it.
Yeah.
It's a recommendation. I don't need a decision here. You don't have to do it, I'll tell you, but I would encourage you to think about strengthening that connection.
Here's another recommendation we'd love for you to make note of, is that this, because of the trolley, and this is not wide enough to park on, this is a new stripe zone of no parking, yellow, right through here. We would love to put that curb line right here.
Okay, great. One of our recommendations is that the north side of Federal Street have the curb line moved out to match the actual traffic lanes. How's that?
And that's what's prescribed by any other trolley.
And then easy, I'm trying to be easy. I'm not necessarily, I'm trying to be easy. In the trolley, next thing you need to do is get your own trolley. And so they'll have enough of them running, and then you can brand it and everything. It comes right into your building. Because the trolley system needs more trolleys. The only thing slower than the actual trolleys themselves is their ability to change the track locations, which you were talking about earlier.
yes,
The slowest things in downtown Dallas. Okay, well, that's kind of where I come from. I'll wrap it. with that. You got everything you need from us, Greg?
Believe so.
Okay.
The only minor thing I'm gonna say about something more, I'm just saying about, I don't care if you put, asphalt on it, I do care.
Okay, you care about the asphalt. No, I agree.
Because it's still part of the
That's correct.
urban.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
And we don't want asphalt.
I was thinking of, all right, I wasn't there, but, again, the dog, what's the dog, what's the tail here? I think, I understand the importance of that lot, but I feel like we're giving that lot a little more consideration than it contributes back to the urban design experience. And again, that's what we're here for. That's our job.
Yeah.
We don't know enough about your tenant requirements and your marketing requirements. And so we have to balance those, but that's our perspective, it's my perspective at least. We think I think this edge could be stronger than it is right now.
I know we're past the question, but is that restaurant accessible from the street or do you have to go?
It is currently, it's an existing restaurant, it's cheaper to be known. It's starting to get open in an empty building, but, it's accessible from the lobby and from the street, and our intention is to keep it that way. If we had to sacrifice one, we would sacrifice the lobby entrance in order to promote the street entrance.
Well, again, great stuff, needed desperately here, what an oasis this could be, while it preserves a landmark building, really, truly a landmark building downtown Dallas. So we applaud it.
And also the fact that you're, trying to serve different market sectors and starting with lower income, middle and higher up, that's a really good mission.
It's really the only way we can. We gotta have people at every price point, I say it, more than they care to hear.
Okay, very well. Well, with that, any other announcements or things? Has Faisal come back with anything else?
Nothing else, he's probably under. Yeah.
I'm surprised even that stopped and frankly.
That's right. Well, I appreciate Norm, the whole team effort today, the good comments and recommendations. And
So,
as always, we'll get back with you.
always fun. So at 10:30 a.m., I will call this meeting of the Urban Design Peer Review Panel adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
For your effort. Look forward to seeing you again, perhaps.